What's up, everybody? Welcome to another great episode of the Get Out of Your Own Way Now show. And today I have a special guest. His name is Aaron Jackson. And Aaron and I actually met through e-commerce, like mastermind or group. I'm not really sure if it's a mastermind per se, but I guess we could call it that. And started chatting, and we just kind of connected through there. And then we've been connected through a couple other places out in the world of just people that our circles travel together in. And so he actually posted on his social media that he was looking to get on podcasts. I was like, oh man, I'm not gonna steal his thunder of his story, but I feel like he's got a lot to share and a lot of value. As you know, this is all about helping each and every one of you guys get out of your own way. And if we get to learn something along the way, not only about that, but about business or anything in that nature, we do that too. So I'm excited to have him on for him to share. So Aaron, let everyone hear you, see you, all that good stuff.
Thank you, Bobby, for that great and fantastic introduction, man. Thank you for having me on. Yeah, it's been quite the journey. I mean, the fact that your podcast is called "Get Out of Your Own Way" is like almost like priceless. It's spot on for me because it's been quite the roller coaster, man. I mean, it's had its ups and its downs, its dark times and its bright times, and like you said, we met through in e-commerce and also through met up again at Cole Hatter's house. It's like I said, it's been a roller coaster, and I mean, getting started and everything, it's been actually like kind of like an interesting journey, especially
share that with us. Like, so for my viewers to know a little bit more about you, like tell them more about who you are, where you've been, and let's dive into some of that. I think it's going to be interesting for folks to hear.
Okay. Well, starting off and everything, growing up, I mean, I never really made the best decisions and all that. I mean, and also on top of that, I grew up with a lot of medical issues because not many of you know, but about dwarfism, but there's many different types of dwarfism. The type that I have is called achondroplasia, and it typically has like shortening of arms and legs, and also leg issues. And throughout my entire life, I was constantly battling issues with my left leg, and to the point where I spent 3 years in a wheelchair, and it really made me understand like on how much people are not there for you, on how much you have to be there for yourself. Because I mean, there'd be like literally times where I would like drop my pencil in class and then nobody would get it for me. So then I just had to start carrying multiple pencils in order to solve my own problem. And you really understand the aspect of flying solo when those times come. And then right after that, because I had to have a leg straightening surgery because I was basically in a wheelchair and I couldn't walk for almost 3 years. And right after that, I became a drug addict due to those surgeries. So I mean, like I said, it's been quite the roller coaster. And then needless to say that I finally got clean quite a few years later, and then went off to college. And it's always been interesting growing up because since I'm like literally the only dwarf in my family, it's always been ingrained in my mind that I can't do anything on my own. I have to be guided by somebody else's hand. And not being able to make a decision, you really don't have any form of self-confidence whatsoever. And going into college, I mean, granted, yeah, I graduated and everything for the bachelor's in mechanical engineering, but in the journey through that process, I mean, I was within a fraternity, and needless to say, it really showed me on how shallow so many relationships are, on how you have to be there for yourself. And kind of fast forwarding a bit, once I graduated, I got a job as a project manager and a mechanical engineer, a research and development engineer, basically the same thing, just a different name. And I'm one that's very observant because I always view anything, any and all situations in first, second, and third person. And when I was working at the company, it's called Yargis Manufacturing out of Marshall, Illinois. I was seeing, I mean, yeah, it was paying the bills and all that. Yeah, I was making good money. But at the same time, like I was seeing where I was going to be in 30 years if I stayed there. Unhappy, unhealthy, and well, basically broke in a sense because, well, needless to say that that career has a very limiting cap on top of it. And I was just never satisfied. And then fast forwarding a bit to 2007 or 2017, my dad ended up dying on Christmas. Well, December 23rd, and my Christmas present was pulling up the carpet from where he died. And needless to say, basically, ever since that moment, it's reminded me of like all the dark times that I've had because throughout my entire life, I've always struggled with suicide. I've always struggled with depression. I've always struggled with anxiety. And I mean, it might sound like shocking up to this point, but there's been up to this point, there's been 11 times where I've attempted suicide,
Wow.
and it's the the power be able to like say that and not like break out into like tears and everything. Like it because it really because what it resulted from is me never being internally happy. And so when my dad died and everything, I inherited a life insurance policy. So I continued testing. I used that money for like testing everything, like doing different mentorships, doing different programs. That's actually on how I paid for the mentorship with Cole. It was through that. It's because like I've always been searching for what is actually gonna make me happy.
Hmm.
And it's because I mean I've tested I don't even know how many mentorships I've tested or different programs, but needless to say, it's what's powerful about especially like right now in this moment is because well one I ended up blowing through all of that testing for everything, testing different like businesses, mentorships, and everything. And what it really showed me is it was this last November when I actually went flat broke because I was investing in Forex with an investor out of San Francisco. And needless to say, he still owes me about 30 grand. And when you're flat broke and you know 30 grand's out there, that's a good sum of money that would be
It definitely
greatly
does.
appreciated at this point. But back in it was I went flat broke in October of 2019, and I ended up crashing my car not too long after that. And since my bank account was empty because I was expecting that check for 30 grand, my insurance payment didn't go through. And since my insurance payment didn't go through, they
Oh
didn't cover
man.
the car accident. So not only did I lose my car, and I also have to pay because the other party is actually suing me at this point. So I'm paying for that as well. But what was truly the defining moment of that right there is because that was in November of 2019, and that was my last suicide attempt. And it was, I mean, I was straight up transparent with you right now. I had a gun to my head, and I asked myself the question, like, Aaron, why do you want to die right now? And I couldn't answer it. And I said, then I asked myself a follow up question. If you don't know why you want to die, why do you want to live? And then that's when I understood, like, had like flashbacks to where, okay, what if people constantly told me? What if people constantly told me that I'm good at? And that's when I was thinking, like, when people have asked me, why aren't you on stage? Why you have a speaking voice, you have a voice for speaking, you have a voice for acting. And prior to that, I was already in two films for acting. One was a music video, and the other one I was an extra in a bar scene. And that's the film is called The Dirt Merchants, and the music video is called Destinova. But it really, it really made me understand the power that I have within, the power of my purpose, and understanding my altruistic value. Because I remember Ty Lopez saying all the time, like, find your altruistic value. And if you can get up every day and do that, then do it. And when I was at the verge of my last suicide attempt, it made me think of like, Aaron, you have a voice. You have the mindset to overcome everything. Think about everything that you've overcame in the past. Yeah, you had to fly solo, but you've had to figure out everything as you go along. And that's when I launched my brand, my personal brand. It's called Daily Dwarf Life. And it's based on, yes, there's physical differences, but the only restraining factor is the mind. Because if you can think about it in the mind, yeah, it's like, I mean, granted, I'm not perfect right now with that, but it's like understanding everything that I have done in the past, like that's required me to become really creative. Because one great analogy that I think about with this is 8 + 1 = 9, right? So does 2 + 7, 5 + 4, 3 + 6, meaning there's many different roads to overcoming the circumstance. You just got to get creative and kick yourself in the ass and go for it.
That's so true. Okay, so I want to ask you a couple of questions about, and I was taking notes here as I'm looking down. That's why I didn't want to interrupt your story, because it was like, I don't know about all of you guys listening, but I was like mesmerized. I knew bits and pieces of it, but not the whole thing. So first and foremost, dude, like, I'm just happy you're here right now. I mean, I know since we've met, you know, we talk on occasion, maybe not a ton, but yeah. A, thank you for being on. B, thank you for being vulnerable. I think most people listen, like if you're listening to this or you're watching this, you know, you probably haven't had to go through the same thing he has, but I think there's a lot of lessons we can take away. And the first thing I want to ask you about is going all the way back to when you said you were in the wheelchair and you started getting other pencils. So something that you said struck me, and I thought it was very interesting. You said, I was always told I was never gonna be able to do anything by myself, right? And I had to learn that self-reliance. And it's interesting to me because most people, and I'll include myself, and most people that I've talked to are sort of the opposite, right? Like, we're taught, don't rely on anyone else. Only you can rely on yourself, and don't have that trust. So it's almost a complete different, like you're coming from the opposite end of the spectrum, trying to find someplace in the middle from where most people are. So like, did you notice that? Like, so you said that you had to rely a lot on yourself. So I guess my question is like, did you notice that no one cared because they were so focused on themselves? Did no one care because they wanted you to figure it out yourself? Like, what was your feeling from that situation, or that time, I should say, in that, and then secondary to that is, what was the mindset that you had to envelop for yourself to say, listen, I can do this myself, to literally overcome the programming that you're being fed?
It really, like, thinking about it from like a third person point of view. I was thinking about, like, why are they not helping me? Why does nobody want to actually reach out a hand? And it really struck me, and also it was a thought that has empowered me for my brand now, is like, they don't want to be seen as different for helping someone that's different. And because what it really made me think is, like, they are so stuck in the mindset of being able to fit in. They don't want to be caught helping somebody that sticks out. So it really made me understand it more so, also from, like, in a sense, think about it from like their perspective, that they're so insecure that they don't want to help somebody that's different because they don't want to get judged for their insecurities.
Wow. Okay.
And that's, thinking about it from like that point of view is, I mean, I've only been able to like think about it, that, like, thinking back on it now. But in the moment, I mean, I was like, if I don't figure this out, it's not gonna happen. So I think of it as, because I have a few, physical accomplishments that I'm working on. I'll get into here in a second. but I think of it as like my playlist that I named. It's ride or die. You either do it or it doesn't happen at all. So you got to either figure it out or don't expect others to be there for you.
That's interesting. To me, it's very fascinating to come from like the complete opposite point of view. But you're right. Like so much of us not relying on other people is because we don't, for the same reason. By the way, I think at least my perspective is it's the same reason. You know, we do everything ourselves so that way we know it's the way we want it to be, so that we don't stick out or so that we can blend in. So that's an interesting point of view, and I want each and every one of you. But listen, whether you're listening or watching this and you've looked at suicides directly in the face and won, hopefully, well, obviously if you're listening to this you did, but you know, if that's you, or if you've never had that happen, either way, think about how are you approaching your life? What are you doing right now to fit in, to not stand out, and what can you do to stand out? Because I think more often than not, and this is totally true, you said, hey, I've been told I have like you were in that music video, you were in that extra scene. Like, personally, your voice is awesome. Like, it sounds like it has like a nice, deep, rich quality to it. And I think, we judge us. I know I've been told that I have a good voice. I don't know. I think my voice sounds like terrible to me, but I've been told that by other people. So I trust them, right? I have to take that. But what I think is interesting is just understanding for each of us, what is it? And you, what did you say? Your altruistic life. So talk to me more about that. So obviously, that was like this moment for you, like thinking about that, reflecting upon that. So what does that mean for you? Like I mean, has it changed your mindset on things? Has it changed anything? I mean, obviously changed something for you, but like to what degree has that? And then what is your altruistic? Like what are you trying to accomplish that's giving you that bigger purpose?
What I see your altruistic value is like your natural skill that you love doing, that you could do every day, on giving back, on helping others, on like Ty says it best. He talks about it in one of his, I think it's 12 foundations, or no, it's 67 steps. Like, whatever you can do to tap dance out of bed and not even think about it being as work. So with me, what I'm currently building is, well, one, my YouTube channel for Daily Dwarf Life. And also, on that, I'm in the process of obtaining sponsorships from brands to do something, I've been training, started this actually here recently, because granted, my brand's been launched for a little bit now, but I actually just decided this here recently. It's a bike trail. It's called the Great Divide. It's 3,088 miles long, and the fastest it's ever been completed is in 37 days. And my goal for 2021 is to beat it. And I have to average 80 miles a day for 35 days straight on a bicycle.
That's crazy.
And being one that's 4 foot tall, 2, I'm only going to be on a 20-inch bicycle. So, and 3, I have a significant mechanical disadvantage. And the purpose behind it is to more so break the habit of the mindset. Because I'm sure you've heard the rumor of way back when nobody thought you could break the 4-minute mile. Mm-hmm. And now once one person did it, everybody else has done it. So why not break a record in order to show, one, yes, if you have physical disadvantages, you can still overcome regardless of whatever you're facing. And 2, if I do it, literally nobody has an excuse for being physically disadvantaged.
Very true. Very true. That's awesome. Yeah. So why that challenge specifically versus anything that you could have done?
It's actually, I consider the challenge more so of a training than a challenge. Because 1, yes, it's going to be a world record, but 2, I'm going to be the first dwarf that's ever done it, and 3, it's training because I'm working it out right now. I don't have a set timeline. I know it's going to happen in 2021, but I'm going to be the first dwarf ever to climb Mount Everest. And that's also where I come back to naming my playlist Ride or Die, is because I'm training right now. And basically, if I don't train now, I will literally die later. So it's one of those, because the whole purpose behind this is because, one, I've understood that if I'm going to be actually leaving this world, it's going to be for something I'm actually going to be proud of and overcoming. Since on how many suicide attempts I've had, because I mean, going back to that, like one's from drugs, two's from alcohol, and then the other 10 have been with a gun, or no, the other 9 have been gun with my head. So it's just like, it's more so in the aspect of like reminding myself what I'm capable of, what I can actually do. Because I, and also to be able to say this, it's like, with, I can't remember his last name. I know his first name is Jesse, but he talks about building your life resume.
Oh, Jesse Itzler, yeah.
Yes, Jesse Isler. He's if you guys aren't following him right now, I highly recommend you do it, because he is huge on building your life resume, building your life that you can be proud of when you actually look back on it. Because if you guys go and interview somebody that's in like stuck in a 9 to 5, you're gonna hear them talking about like, oh, I wish I would have done that. Oh, I wish I would have did this. Like at the end of the day, what are you gonna say you wish you did instead of what you did? Like that's what I'm going for, and that's why I'm so driven right now to do what I want to do. Is because like, well, one, we have one life, and we can either choose to live every day, or we can choose to just to live once. It's you guys' choice, and it's being one that struggled with suicide so much, that came so close to ending it. This is like the power and the feeling behind uh, growing and living your altruistic value. Like when you guys find that with whatever it is, like first off, actually, in order for you to guys to find it, like start journaling. Like, what do you want to do? What makes you the happiest? What is your desire like to do? Because like there's so many people so miserable nowadays, and it's very depressing to see where some people are, because you've been there and you know the darkness that they walk through. But being the one that can pull people out of that situation, that that is where the power lies. Because everybody has a story, and I think of it like this: everybody in life writes a story. Very few publish their story. The ones that publish their story is read and criticized by the ones that didn't. But the ones that publish their stories are the ones that actually are living their altruistic value and living their life. So the question is like, are you going to be the one to publish your story? Because I already know I'm writing my book right now. So it's a matter of you guys understanding, like I said, your altruistic value, your purpose, and on how you can truly impact.
That's huge. That's huge. And so I would love for each of you, if you're listening to this now or you're watching this, drop a comment and let me know like what's that for you. Or if you haven't thought about it, I want you to think about it. Go do that. So you mentioned having a journal. What else has helped you sort of discover that for yourself? Has it just been the journaling? And if it's just journaling, like, is there a process? Is there something that you think about? Is there a structure to yours, or do you just get your thoughts out? Like, how's that worked for you?
It's it's worked in many different ways, because I keep all of my old journals. I actually have my first two on the floor right next to me in a box.
And do you ever go back and
It
read them?
really, yeah, it reminds me on where I came from. It reminds me the pain that I've already worked through, and it also, on top of that, the it took me a while to actually figure out this, but when you guys go back, because when I grew up, I was sexually abused for about three and a half years, and when I first started talking about that, I would always bawl and start crying. But when I started journaling about it, and then I started researching the aspect of journaling, when you write about a painful memory, one, you're in control of the entire event when you're writing about it, and two, when you write about it, you are remembering the experience, but at the same time, you when you journal about it, you detach the experience from the emotion. So then it only is becoming is only a memory at that point, and the emotion that holds you back no longer is there because you're in control. You're therapeutically writing out that experience, and it is freeing you. Because that is a huge, especially in the aspect of this, of getting out of your own way, writing about all the pain that you've went through, writing about all the drug addictions, all the sexual abuse, all the breakups. Like, you guys, nobody actually realizes how much that holds them back until they start writing about it, and then the emotions start coming back. And when the emotions come back, then that is when you're actually making the turning point and freeing yourself between the memory and the emotion. Because I had to write about my dad passing away, and on top of that, it was my Christmas present to remove the bloodstained carpet. I had flashbacks for so long, and it wasn't until I went back and read my other journals, like, hey, I was actually making good progress with this. Why not write about this? So it's really showed me the path on detaching the emotion from the memory through writing.
And so do you go back and review these on a frequent basis, or only when you need to, or or do you make a point to, so that it's like the ongoing work? I'm curious.
It kind of depends. Like, sometimes when I'm like really down, I like to look back and see all the progress I have made. And then once I see all the progress I have made, I'm like, hey, you made it through this, so why are you overthinking this so much? You know?
That's powerful. That's
Yeah.
powerful. That's very cool. Okay. Man, yeah. So it's interesting. I was just thinking back to, I did for a while journal. I remember going back. I think my first one was 2012 was what I wrote it, and I looked at it, and I remember like the things that I was writing about then. And I haven't gone through the same maybe emotional trauma that you have, but just looking back at what was my trauma for me at that time, it was like, man, like that, and it seems so small and insignificant when I look back. And so I think that's a powerful exercise. I don't do it often enough to go back, so that's why I was curious to know, like, was it ongoing? So okay, so you've kind of gone through all this, and you've reached this realization now that, hey, like, I'm going to be here. I'm going to rock this. I've set a massive goal for you to overcome, two massive goals actually. And what do they call it? Oh, BHAGs, big, hairy, audacious goals. You, you got two of those rolling, and you've got this process. And so what does moving forward look like for you in saying and making sure that you're saying to yourself, hey, like, I've set these paths, and this is going to be hard. It's going to be a lot of work. It's going to take everything that I have to make these things happen. What, is there something that you've done to help yourself get out of your own way and saying, I can do this, versus, hey, like, there's one step to say I want to, and another step to say I can. Like, even your goal of just riding that bike ride, right? And that for me would be like, man, can I even do that? Not even like the want part, but just, would it even physically be possible for me to do that? And so I would imagine you have to continue to tell yourself something, some sort of mental fortitude or exercise or whatever to do that. So what does that look like for you?
I look at it as like this. I know where I end up when I give up. And that is when I've focused on the aspect of giving up and the pain. I know I'm my own worst enemy. And I know the path that I'm going to go down. And I use that as a reminder because everybody that I'm currently like being one that is such like a deep thinker and overthinker, I exclude my own value in situations. I don't necessarily consider it at times like important in situations, but when I get like the feedback and understanding, like, hey, I actually have a purpose in this. I actually am impacting through this. Like, that is what keeps me going, because I'm one that overthinks. I'm one that has anxiety. I'm one that has a depression. And all that happens when I give up. So I always tell myself, like, if you're going to quit, just go ahead and pull the trigger. And that, wow, that hit me see, it still that it still hits me deep. So like I know, like I said, where I end up every time I give up, and if I keep going, I don't know exactly where I'm going to end up, but I'm curious where the destination is. So that is what drives me and what's been driving me for doing this. Because it's, like I said, it's not been easy. I still have my struggles now. I still have like, I mean, it's still like a roller coaster all the time right now. But at the same time, I realize where I came from. I realize everything that I've overcome. I realize the direction that I'm going and with what I'm currently creating. So yeah, it's still hard at times, but uh, it reminds me that I need to keep going because, like I said, if I stop, I know exactly where I'm going to end up.
That's true. That's so true. And look, I mean, at the end of the day, we all have our struggles, you know,
Hmm.
and we all face these things every single day. And for each of us, it's a little bit different. But I think you're absolutely right. Like we know what the end result is. The only thing that we don't know
Hmm.
is what was the journey before we got to that end result. And I
Hmm.
think to me, it sounds like at least, you know, you're saying, hey, I'm going to make this journey the best I possibly freaking can, no matter what. And almost maybe in spite of everything else, which I think is cool.
Exactly.
I think if more people had that attitude, had that mentality of like, yeah, I could do this, and it may not even it does not even necessarily tying it back to suicide per se, but even just like, yeah, I could just be average. I could just go get a 9 to 5 and be fine with that. I could just live mediocrity if I wanted to, but I could also do something more in spite of everything that I was given, in spite of everything. I was having a conversation the other night with my business partner, and we talk about life choices, and so much of the choices that we make are influenced by those around us. And so my next question for you is, you had to develop this self-reliance, whereas, like I said before, most of us are learning to say we have to accept help. Do you think
Hmm.
that self-reliance that you were forced to develop for yourself, has given you this drive that you have now? I mean, does it play a part in it at all, or do you just say like, or do you, or not? I'm curious.
Oh yeah, most definitely. It's like because when when I can remember that there was a time when I could wake up, but I couldn't even get out of bed to go to the bathroom by myself. Uh, you realize how important the small things are. So you always have like I always personally have to like I realize like if I don't do this in this moment, it is not going to get done. And that's where I've carried. I mean, I only weigh 115 pounds, and I've had to carry 120-pound air conditioners upstairs, 140-pound engine cranes in my car. Like, I literally get myself in the mindset. It's like, well, if you don't do it right now, this is literally not going to happen because there's nobody that you can call for help. And when you realize that there's nobody that you can call for help, it really uh, takes your creativity on accomplishing the current task to a whole new level. And also on top of that, it's like when I'm gonna be riding through the mountains this coming year when I'm completing the Great Divide, I'm gonna be literally the only one around for quite a few hundred miles. So it's gonna be like if I don't do this or if I have an issue, help's not coming.
Right.
So thinking about it like that makes me think about my mindset on like if you don't do this, you're gonna die trying.
Like literally could.
Yeah, that's where next year I'm gonna be doing two things. Where if I don't do this now, I'm literally gonna die trying. So
That's awesome.
it really it's really more so the personal kick to yourself that you need because you know what's going to happen if you don't figure it out.
Very, very true. So, okay, so you've got your new personal brand that you're building for yourself. What do you see for that? Like, what's your aspirations there, and how did you how did you take your mindset, again, coming back to getting out of your own way? How did you take your mindset and say, yeah, like even aside from these great challenges that you've set for yourself, obviously, you want to build this for you. What was the thing that you had to get out of your own way to say, yeah, I can go build this brand and I can talk about these things out there, and just be me and let people know and inspire them?
Because after getting all the finally listening, actually not just listening, but understanding all the feedback that I've gotten throughout all the things I've done in my life. Because I mean, I get told quite often that, dude, you're really outgoing. You're really funny, dude. You have a great voice. So it's more so just like combining everything, because I'm going to have a lot of, funny content on there as well. Like one of them, I'll give you a little surprise on it. It's going to be me, because I'm building a Subaru Impreza right now. And what I'm working on figuring out how I can do it is importing it to Ireland, and I'm going to be flying into the country dressed as a leprechaun. So,
all right. Can't wait to see this. This should be good.
So it's just like, and going off of that, it's more so like, yes, I have physical differences, but at the same time, I'm embracing those physical differences. Because, I mean, some people think of it as a disadvantage. I mean, I think of it as an advantage because, one, I stick out instead of fit in, and two, I'm because one of the funny things that used to irritate me was when people come up to me and call me a midget. Cause that's technically the disrespectful and racist term, but now it's like, great, you've identified yourself as not being educated on the term. So it's like, I'm not trying to be like disrespectful in that part, but it's like more so it's just like, it's actually interesting with words themselves. It's that we are the ones that give power to the word on how they affect us. So why should I give somebody else my power just because they are uneducated on a terminology and have never been corrected? So it's just like, I mean, yeah, I get called that all the time, but at the same time, now I look at it, I'm like, cool, you've identified that I'm different than you.
High five, bro. High five. Good job.
Yeah.
It's funny. With, go ahead.
With like people, because they like take my picture and everything because I'm a dwarf, and I mean, I could easily point out exactly who's taking my picture, and I walk up to them like, that'd be $20.
And they're like, oh crap, what?
Yeah, it's like, it's about more so embracing your physical differences and leveraging them, because so many people are so insecure about everything, and this is like, I want to be the image to show what it's like when you fully embrace them and the happiness that can prevail.
I get it, man. I get it. To a certain extent, I mean, obviously I'm not, I'm not a dwarf, but I was one of only 2 people in my entire school of 2000 growing up that had red hair. And it's not exactly like it's kind of red. It's like really freaking red. And so, it was always a thing that made me stand out. And I remember there was a time in high school where it was like, I was like, man, I just wish I wasn't this way. And then I slowly started to realize, like, this is what gives me my power. It's what stands out. So like, even my company now, like my primary company where everything I run through is called Redhead Ventures. Like I dive in with like all in with it, right? Like just own it. Like the same as you, I think like, hey, like this is a thing. Mm-hmm. It's what makes me stand out. It's what's going to make me different. And I'm going to own it 100% of the way. And so I challenge each and every one of you watching or listening to this. What makes you different? How can you stand yourself out and get there? Because look, I talk to a lot of entrepreneurs, and there's hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands, or even hundreds of thousands of people in the same niche as you. And so I've been saying this for the last 2 years. The only thing that differentiates the person in your niche from you is you. Like you have to be the difference in that, because they can copy everything else, but they can't copy that. They can't take that away from you. So be you, own it, and roll forward. So I think that's exactly what you're doing, which is, that's huge. So awesome, man. Well, seriously, this has been a great interview. I feel like we could probably go on for a whole lot longer if we really wanted to.
Oh yeah.
But I do want to I want to be respectful of everyone's time. You know, they log in looking for a time limit. So maybe we'll have to do another conversation. I definitely want to know more about like I want to see like when you go on that ride, everything like so. And I'm sure that there's other people that are listening and watching this are gonna want to check you out too. So where can people follow you, get a hold of you, check you out, and see your stuff if they want to?
Both my Instagram and Facebook is Aaron Jackson 4112, and then my YouTube channel is Daily Dwarf Life.
Dude, Daily Dwarf. I'm not gonna lie, that's a freaking fantastic name. Like, because it's just like it sticks, right? And like I said, I think like obviously I had you on because I know you, and like I was like, man, like just our interactions, I was like, I think you would be a fantastic guest for people to learn from. So I'm so excited you were here. And thank you so much for your time. Thank you for being vulnerable and sharing your story. I know for a lot of people that they would definitely never do that. And you know, sometimes we're even taught hide that. But again, I think that's what makes you even more powerful as a human being, is just standing out and saying, look, this is my shit's my shit and I'm going to own it. But guess what? We're going to be better.
Oh yeah. Thank you so much for having me. Because also when you share your story becomes disempowering and controlling you, but it becomes empowering for encouraging others. And I've understood that fully. And that's why, I mean, like, cause I'll be fully transparent anytime and every time, just to encourage others to open up the light to themselves.
Dude, fantastic. Well, everyone, if you've been watching or listening, thank you. Please make sure you go check out Aaron. I'm sure he'd appreciate it. And obviously, I think we all want to know and see that this is happening, where it's going, what's happening, and all that, which is awesome. As always, make sure you subscribe, rate, review this channel. If you're listening on the podcast, go to YouTube and check it out. We have obviously live video as well. If you're on the YouTube, you can also get this on podcast. For any show notes, any information, links, things like that, we'll make sure we drop those in the show notes. So go to the site, check those out, and we'll see you guys on another episode of the Get Out of Your Own Way Now show. Thank you so much again. I'm Bob McIntosh, and this is Aaron Jackson. Thank you so much for being here, man. Have a great day, each and every one of you. Take it easy.
Thank you, guys.